Everybody, and a trade just went down in the NHL. The Colorado Avalanche have traded defensive prospect Drew Helleson and a 2023 second round pick in exchange for Josh Manson, who had a year left remaining on his deal. It's a 50%. The Ducks will retain 50% of that contract, and I mean, the Avs are just loading up, especially on the right side defense. Manson was probably one of the better players, defensemen available at the deadline, and to get a pretty fair price for him.
Yeah, I mean, great trade, good job. Whoa, Colorado does it again. I was hoping when I first found out about this trade, I was like, this is why Gabriel Landeskog suddenly needs a knee surgery. They couldn't retain on Josh Manson without giving up too much in assets, so they had to eat his entire contract. And so to get the cap flexibility to do that, they had to put Landeskog in LTIR, and then 30 seconds later, I find out it's 50% and they didn't even give up a first round pick.
Yeah.
They didn't even give up. Manson's a guy who's gonna play big minutes. He's gonna log heavy minutes. He obviously plays on the PK. He's a right-hand shot that comes at a premium. Obviously his production has fallen off the last 2 years relative to what he was in 2019, 2020, but still a really good player. He's a veteran. There's value in that. He's definitely better than a lot of the other options that are on the market, like Ben Sherratt. Mark Giordano is arguably even older. He's much older than Josh Manson. You could argue that, you know, he isn't even worth it. And it's just surprising to me because the Kraken are asking for a first and a third for Mark Giordano.
Yeah.
Montreal wants a first round pick and a very good prospect for Ben Sherratt. Arizona is asking for the moon for Chitrin, right? Which is why what you call it, when Florida tried to trade for him, they reportedly offered Spencer Knight in a deal, and even that wasn't enough, right? So you look at the defenseman for Marcus, and as a Leafs fan, I'm saying, okay, I'm preparing myself to give up a first round pick. I'm preparing myself to give up, a Nick Robertson whatever, or a Mikhail Abramov, or Mac Hollowell, one of those guys, right? And then I find out it cost them Drew Helleson in a second. Not even this year's second, next year's second.
Yeah.
Obviously Drew Hellison's a great prospect.
Yeah.
He's an incredible. He's got some similarities with Cale Makar. Obviously, he's not going to be the same player, but he has that smooth, patient skating style. He's a very smooth operator. He sees the ice very well. He's doing very well, I think, this season with Boston College as a defenseman. He's got like 25 points in 32 games. Great playmaker. He's obviously one of Colorado's, top prospects, right? But
Yeah.
with that in mind, when you go through the tiers of prospects that Colorado has, and this is a testament to Colorado's draft process and how much success they've had in accumulating top end talent. You'd argue Drew Hellison's not even a top 10 prospect in that prospect pool,
Yeah.
right? Again, he's a great player, great prospect. He's got huge upside. But, Justin Barron is a guy that I thought would have had to be in this deal for sure. Like, if it was Justin Barron in a second round pick, I would have been like, you know what? That sounds about right. Justin Barron's a former first round pick. He's a guy that a lot of teams value, a lot of teams look highly upon. He's a two-way defenseman. He's big, physical. He's an asset that a lot of teams, especially a rebuilding team like Anaheim, would love, right?
Yeah.
Especially since you have kind of that right side sorted out with Drysdale. I think Zellweger is obviously a good player. He's going to be a top four defenseman. He's on the left side, but you don't really have that stud left hand prospect. At least there's not one that's coming to mind right now. And so obviously that would be the main area you want to address, right? You have Zegras and McTavish up top. You want a blue chip prospect on the blue line. I would have thought Justin Barron and Jamie Drysdale would have been that perfect pairing for them going into the future, and then Zellweger can be that second pair guy, right? And you build from there. I don't think Hellison's as good of a prospect as Zellweger
I
is,
don't think
right?
so. I don't think so.
You look at that blue line, you look at the prospects, he's third, I guess now on that blue line in terms of prospect rankings, right?
Yeah.
But you know, there's levels to this, right? And it's just I think as a Leafs fan, it's hard for me to kind of swallow the fact that Dubas was willing to pay a first round pick last year for Nick Foligno, but he wouldn't fork over a second and
An
obviously Nick
okay
Roberts,
prospect.
yeah, someone better than Drew Hallison, you know,
Yeah.
um, and it's just again, Manson's gonna fit in perfectly on that Colorado blue line. And if you're Colorado, this is the year. This is really the year you have to go for it, right? Because Kadri's gonna get paid this offseason. And you might not have the cap flexibility to bring him back. So really, this is the year Colorado's gotta go with it. They still got Kadri on that really really cheap deal. And I know they keep cycling in and wingers in and out in that middle six, right? Brand Saad left. They brought him back. They let him go again. Donskoy's in Seattle now. But, every year that this goes by, they're losing more and more depth, right?
Yeah.
Because guys are getting paid. McKinnon's going to get his extension soon. And holy, that's going to be a boatload of money, right? I don't think they've extended Kemper yet,
They
right? So
haven't.
they have to pay him too.
I
So
wouldn't like.
this is the
I
year.
wouldn't be surprised if McKinnon got over McDavid money. Like he's
Oh
worth
yeah.
it. He's worth 13 million for sure.
Yeah. So from Colorado's perspective, this trade makes perfect sense. If anything, they got away with highway robbery here.
Yeah.
Um, so if you're if you're a buying team, this is great news. I think.
Yeah.
I think it lowers the market, right? Because if Josh Manson's only gonna get a second, really, and a prospect who was a second round pick, but you know probably still has around that same valuation, right? There's no first round pick involved, right? Now a lot of teams like Toronto's got a deep prospect pool. Edmonton, if they choose to buy, they've got a deep prospect
Yeah.
pool as well, right? I think teams are more okay with giving out a second round pick and like a pretty good prospect rather than having to give up their first, especially in a draft class like last year's and this year's where there's a lot of talent available. There's going to be good players, in the mid late first round. I think Toronto fans have learned that the hard way the last two seasons with Seth Jarvis, who's playing NHL minutes now for a very good Carolina team, and Corson Kuhlmans, who's going to be a really good defenseman for Columbus. So it's just, I'm hoping now that means that the market will open, and now that the first domino has fallen, and a lot more trades are going to start coming in, because you know,
It's been
I think
dead.
it's just more fun. It's been kind of deadly lately with trades. Haven't really been since the Toffoli trade, which was what, like 3 weeks ago.
Exactly.
We've
It's
just
exactly a month ago today.
Yeah, it's been a month. Like it's just we just keep hearing rumors, and we keep thinking, oh, maybe this happens, and then 2 weeks later we're hearing the same rumor again. And you're just like, So this is exciting. And the great thing is, well, we don't, even if the Leafs make it to the finals, we don't have to deal with the Avalanche.
Yeah, that's good.
Um, realistically, from my perspective, I just want someone to help us get out of the first round. I'm gonna be honest.
And
Um,
with Manson being traded, I wonder what happens with Hampus Lindholm, if they're gonna maybe move on from him, and the Ducks decide to do this full rebuild again, if this full sale, because they've been kind of falling back a bit. They really haven't been. I think they've been under 500 since Christmas. So if Hampus Lindholm's on the market and we know he wants an extension, I think that could drive up the price on him. But we'll see.
yeah, I mean, right now this trade deadline is really in my mind at least going through three or four main teams. So you got Anaheim, who's got significant pieces they can sell. They just sold off Josh Manson. Hampus Lindholm is another guy. If they can't get an extension with him, they're going to be motivated to sell because they don't know if they can bring him back, right?
Yeah,
Ricard Raquel, cheap contract last year of his deal, top six forward. He's on like a 50-point pace this year.
yeah,
He's going to be another guy who's going to have value across the league. Teams like Pittsburgh, Boston could use another top six scorer. He fits that mold, and especially if you retain 50%, it gives a lot of cap flexibility to these contenders to make another move after, right? If Raquel is only going to cost you 1.7 against the cap, you don't have to give up more assets to do a double retention like Toronto had to do with Nick Foligno last year. It opens up flexibility for you to make more moves. So that's going to be one avenue, right? Montreal. even though they've been playing really good hockey under Martin St. Louis, that's another team with really significant pieces that they can move. You look at Ben Sherratt that we've mentioned, right? Last year of his deal, 3.5, you retain 50%. Again, it's like the Raquel situation. Very cheap contract, offers more flexibility for future moves. Arturi Lehkonen, who's having an incredible season. I think you could argue he's been Montreal's best player this year, maybe.
I think you
You
can
could
argue that. Yeah.
you could make a legitimate case for that, right? I think he's played so well that maybe Montreal doesn't want to trade him anymore. There have been reports that say that Montreal is a little bit more hesitant now to move him, but if they do move him, they can get a haul for him. They can really get a lot of value out of him. And Jeff Petrie, obviously, I don't think that trade's likely, but he's on the market, right? Um, so those are like two really big sellers. Another team that could either sell or buy is Vancouver, right?
Yeah.
Like Vancouver's got a lot of potential to make a huge move, whether that's Besser or Garland for a defenseman. We saw that Pittsburgh has probably gone the furthest in those negotiations with John Marino. If you see a swap like that, it could, you know, either Vancouver is just going to start selling assets or they're going to retool, right? They're going to shift their assets, right? They're going to invest a bit more in the blue line. That gives some opportunities just to set market price, right?
Yeah.
If you're trying to swap like for like or a change of scenario, right? That's another big market. And then the last one's Columbus, who's got a lot of interesting pieces, a lot of flawed pieces. But that's what's interesting, right? Because a lot of the players that are available at the deadline this year are sometimes flawed players. There aren't a lot of perfect fits, right? There aren't a lot of Barclay Goodrows or Blake Coleman's from years past. They're like guys like Max Domi, Jack Roslovich, right? Mark Giordano, John Klingberg. These are all guys that are good at some things, but they also have rather significant weaknesses, right? With Roslovich, it's his work ethic. With Giordano and Klingberg, it's their defense. With Domi, it's just in general, he's just an inconsistent player. There are questions about his locker room fit, right? Korpisalo is another guy who might have value. Columbus was asking for a second, third round pick earlier, like a month ago in reports. You know, it's going to be interesting to see what Columbus can get for these guys if they do decide to trade them, right? Because
Right.
that sets the price for other flawed assets, right? It's like, oh, like Domi has these flaws, but if Columbus can get a second round pick for him, then someone with Klingberg or Giordano or another forward, they can go, hey, someone else paid a second for this guy. All right, we think our guy's better than him. You know, you're gonna have to pay more, right? So I think the trade deadline is really going to go through those four teams. Um, wouldn't be surprised if the Islanders try to shop some guys, but that team just loaded up with no move clauses, no trade clauses.
The
It's gonna
Lou
be
way,
tough.
baby.
Yeah, it's gonna be, and I mean it's a long time coming, right? Like we knew 2 years ago when they were signing these contracts that
We made
the
a video
age
on
and
that.
the
We made a video on that like a year
yeah.
ago.
Yeah, right? Like you could see it coming. And no one was complaining when the Islanders were winning games, right? Like no one's gonna come, but we said long-term outlook, with all these guys on big contracts, New York's a nice city to live in, big market, you know, you give these guys no move clauses, you give these guys term, you give these guys money. When it's time to move off of these guys, it's going to be hard. And they're seeing it with Semyon Varlamov. Varlamov was a guy I thought was like a top 10 goalie last year. And now they can't move this guy anywhere. They can't even get a second or third round pick for him. And teams that are willing to pay a second or third for him, like Edmonton, guess what? Varlamov doesn't want to waive his no trade clause to go to Edmonton.
Yeah. Is it I'm just it's just going to be very interesting to see how the shapes up. Like you said, you mentioned the defensemen. There's smaller assets that I wonder about. James Reimer, could he potentially be out there? Um, could Toronto maybe try to dip into the market and get someone like a Marc-Andre Fleury, because Peter Mrazek has not been doing well. Jack Campbell's out for at least another couple of weeks. It's gonna be fun to watch. And like you said, hopefully this Manson's trade is the first domino effect, and hopefully we get more news coming soon.
Oh yeah. Oh, for sure, for sure. It's good schools clearing up too for like the next week
Oh
because
yeah,
I have a weird feeling things are gonna ramp up a little bit here on the trade market. With that in mind, we're probably gonna be recording trade deadline predictions, the video for that pretty soon, eh?
Yeah,
I guess I
probably.
can get rid of my Josh Manson trade prediction.
Oh yeah,
I had him going to Toronto.
that
That
didn't
didn't
work
work out
out.
very
It didn't
well.
work
That didn't
out.
work out at all.
All right, but yeah, guys, thanks for watching, and make sure to stay tuned to upcoming videos, and yeah, we'll see you guys next.